You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. When UCLA comes to Baton Rouge on September the 21st, there will be a new head man patrolling the sidelines for the Bruins. DeShaun Foster, former UCLA running back, who a lot of fans down here may remember from his time with the Carolina Panthers. He is the new head coach over at UCLA. Talk about it, Bryan Fenley, who's a UCLA football postgame radio host, good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Bryan, appreciate it, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good times here in Westwood. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Let's go back before we go forward. Chip Kelly leaving is so odd to a lot of people, right? To leave a head coaching job for an OC job, a lot of money involved as well. What happened? Why did Chip Kelly seemingly want out?
Chip wanted out for quite some time. We saw the reports, obviously, even going back to last year when he was in the interview room for University of Cincinnati's football job. The thing about Chip is, and there is some truth to this, Chip is a guy who I like to think of it like this. He doesn't, in this new day and age of college football, he doesn't want to be the CEO of the team and the program, which you really need to be. He is more akin to just kind of wanting to be that research scientist who gets a grant from a school and can sit in a lab all day and draw plays and not have much other responsibility than that. And so there was a lot to that in the sense of he doesn't, I think at this stage, and he just turned 60, I think he wants to be a little bit less under the responsibility of a program. I also think with UCLA, it's a very complicated NIL situation. Now, the guys that are on the team right now would be the first to tell you it is a very challenging state in the sense of they're really behind. NIL is very much behind. And so part of that obviously would contribute to indecent recruiting, where UCLA was now going to the Big Ten. They were ranked 18 out of 18 schools. So a lot of that is that they're sort of like this, they're not coming to the times, progressive thought with NIL. Chip might have seen that, probably thought, okay, I'm not going to win next year, and whatever reputation I still can preserve, I'm going to jump ship right now so that at least if he stayed and the season went really bad, then I don't know where he would have an opportunity. And at least now he's got something, and it's his friend Ryan Day, because a lot of other people have kind of turned him down at this point.
Sure. I mean, staying ahead of the resume, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
So DeShaun Foster is the guy. I think that's a name college football fans remember, as I mentioned in the open. Played for the Carolina Panthers. A lot of people here would remember. Give us a little bit of the thumbnail of DeShaun Foster, the coach. How did he end up at this point as the guy?
Well, he had recently taken the job as the running backs coach for the Las Vegas Raiders, and I think he did that with the sense. My hunch is, before it was announced that Chip Kelly was leaving UCLA, I just have this sneaky suspicion that DeShaun was tipped off, because I would say about a week before Chip announced, or the reports were that he was leaving UCLA, DeShaun Foster takes this job with the Raiders. So he must have known something about, okay, there's going to be a big change coming, and I'm not sure what the landscape is going to look like, and so I'm going to move on. Now, obviously, with it being this late in the ball game, when it comes to the heavy traffic of the hiring cycles of head coaching and firings and all of that, UCLA put themselves, in, to no fault of their own, but more so Chip Kelly, that they were in a tough spot because a lot of the deals and coaches, they've already been settled into wherever they're going to be next year. So very much past that go process of going and getting guys and coaches and figuring out that circus that right after the regular season that we see every year. So there weren't a whole lot of options, I think, that were viable. I think the biggest thing with DeShaun and what he brings is he's a unifier. And there's a lot of panic within the program. A lot of guys were threatening to leave as far as players. And what DeShaun Foster does, and again, he's a great man. He's unproven. Like, he's never had a job of this responsibility as a head coach. But the players loved him. And I think UCLA, their first decision was, okay, with all of this chaos, first thing is damage control. And what does that mean? That means making sure the least amount of guys transfer out because the program is in a flux. So who do we bring in? DeShaun Foster. He might not have the proven track record of, say, a head coach who's won other places or something. But then again, how many other options are there at this time of the year? So DeShaun, he went to UCLA. He's been a coach at UCLA, an assistant since 2017. He's been one of the more underpaid assistants at UCLA. He has been underappreciated. This is an opportunity that I feel like he is ready for, and what he does is eliminate a lot of players who were second-guessing themselves about sticking around next year, including a tweet that just came out a couple hours ago from QB1 Ethan Garbers, who said that he is fully on board with DeShaun Foster. So I think the goal from the AD Martin Jarman was, who's the guy that we can bring in to avoid having everybody essentially have a mass exodus? Because UCLA, Chip Kelly knew that he was leaving, and he did really nothing at the national signing period. He's known to hit some big jackpots in the transfer portal. He basically just was passively uninvolved in that. So the team, when it comes to stockpiling for next year, didn't really do anything. So whatever they did have, they had to keep to give themselves a chance in the Big Ten. And the guy to keep as many of those guys in Westwood was DeShaun Foster, and I don't think anybody else could have done that like him.
Bryan Fenley is our guest, Fox Sports Radio, also part of the UCLA football postgame radio broadcast. Fascinating topic. So what is So Bryan, I saw last week, I know ESPN puts out their their returning production metric and all that, and UCLA was like 95th in the country in returning production. So what is this roster that's coming to Baton Rouge in September going to look like?
Well, that to me is a scary prospect, because look at the team from last year. UCLA, so this is a UCLA team. They're really, and Chip Kelly is one of the guys who loves to run the football. They've done a really good job. I can't fault Chip Kelly in this. Chip Kelly, while he hasn't been and wasn't a great recruiter at UCLA, he was a great developer of talent. You look at so many running backs that have come and gone seemingly from nowhere, guys like Joshua Kelly, who came from UC Davis and then was drafted by the Chargers, to Zach Charbonnet, of course, who's now on the Seahawks. These are guys who were passed up initially with their colleges, and Chip Kelly was able to find something out of them that maybe even the players themselves did not see. What Chip Kelly did last year, and what's going to be the biggest problem, I think, is defensively for UCLA. Because UCLA had a great defensive coordinator, and he ends up getting poached by USC. They pay him double the amount of money. They're going to give him about $2 million. Yancey Lynn, he had a great first year. He was he's Anthony Lynn's son. Of course, Anthony Lynn, coach in the NFL and formerly with the Chargers. So Anthony Lynn's son was the DC at UCLA last year. People loved him. But the Bruins, and the problem with UCLA as an athletic program is that they are in a financial crisis. And one of the reasons why they decided to go to the Big Ten is because the athletic program is in such financial debt, meaning a guy that's a hot topic, a guy who's an up-and-coming coach like a D'Anton Lynn, the DC, they can't keep him. So USC takes him. They pay him over $2 million a year. UCLA could not do that. But what D'Anton did last year is really do a great job in cultivating the talent. Guys like Ileatu Latu, you're going to probably hear in the NFL draft of this first round this upcoming year. You got the Murphy twins as well. Those guys should be picked up in the draft. The biggest problem, I think, is defensively, what is UCLA going to be? Because a lot of their back-end guys, the secondary, they got better NIL deals, which goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where UCLA is not so much involved in the pay-for-play, very behind in the times, archaic with the NIL. So there have been other schools like USC that have poached a couple of the better DBs on the team. So now it's like, who's coming back? You lose your best pass rusher to the NFL. Some of your DBs are now going to other schools. There could be some stability at that linebacker position, but honestly, I think the biggest issue going into that LSU game is going to be what kind of defense this Bruins team can show, and right now that certainly is in question.
Wow. Well, we've got a long way to go. I would assume also, Bryan, last thing, that when the spring portal rolls around, that would likely be an opportunity where UCLA is going to try to supplement their roster. So a long way of saying this roster is probably far from done right now.
It has to be. It absolutely has to be, because right now, I mean, and I think that Coach Foster would be the first to tell you, or at least he would say it to himself right now, UCLA has a gauntlet of a season next year, and wins are going to be extremely hard to come by, no matter who they're playing. So if they want to win a couple of games, to be honest with you, they have to. And what they do have are a lot of returning pieces on offense. They've got some great wide receivers. They have got a quarterback, a transfer from University of Washington, and Ethan Garbers, whose brother Chase was the quarterback at Cal for all of those years. So they have some pieces offensively that are coming back. So at least they have that. I feel like they're going to put up points, but are they going to be able to stop anybody? And that's the biggest concern, I think, going into that LSU game next year.
A lot of time between now and then. It'll be interesting to see how Coach DeShaun Foster does in that year one. Bryan Fenley, part of the UCLA Football Radio Network, the post-game host there, good enough to spend a couple of minutes with us. Bryan, we appreciate it, man. All the best. Have a good week.
Hey, thanks so much. Look forward to that matchup coming up in a few months' time.
Hey, man, we'll be happy to host you when you're in.
Look forward to it.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.